Hi, I'm Kevin, and welcome back to Tractors in Life. Warning you right now, this video is going to be all over the place. As you saw in the thumbnail, I'm going to share with you a crabgrass killer that I found that actually works. I've also got to get some weed and feed on the lawn. I'm going to share with you a trail behind spreader that I have. I've shown it on the channel before, but it's just fantastic. It's the best that I've ever owned. And then also, we're going to review a birthday present that my wife got me. Thanks for joining us. Now let's get to work. So I think we all battle crabgrass throughout the year. I know I certainly do. You know what kills me too is I put a pre-emergent crabgrass down at the time you were supposed to, which was early May. But I'm wondering if, because of all the rain we got this year, actually no, I'm not wondering, because I do it almost every year and it doesn't work. So today I went down to the sod farm where I buy my seed, because I've got to do some around the property, and ask the guys down there. I mean, you know, they would know, they grow sod. This is going to be a good test area because I've not redone the lawn here yet, and this crabgrass is right in the middle where it's easy to see, so we'll be able to just kind of keep an eye on this area. So I went around and hit all the spots that I could see, and now we're going to see. Frankly, if you're seeing this video, that means I had some level of success, because I'm not going to show you guys something that doesn't work. And I don't want to recommend something until I know that it does work. I bought this, it's not sponsored, there's no commission or anything like that for me. So this is July 17th. He told me that you need about 6 hours of no rain. We're not getting any rain till tomorrow, if that. So I think that's gonna not be a non-issue if it doesn't work. So July 17th, I'll bring you back when we've got some results, good or bad. Okay, it has been about 7 days since I made that crabgrass killer application. Let's take a look at what we've got. It's good. I'm not sure how this is going to show up on camera, but this is a patch of crabgrass right here. And as you can see, it's turned yellow and it's kind of folding into itself, so it's dying. Here's another one right here. Now it does kind of leave that brown patch, but I think that that's to be expected. I mean, you know, crabgrass spreads, it gets thick, and when you kill it, you know, there's nothing there. Now over here, this was really effective. You can see what's left of the crabgrass over here as well, and it's turning yellow and brown and dying. So I am really happy with this. I really am. I've got another grass in here, and it's probably not going to show up great, but this right here, it comes up every year in this spot by the garden, and also over here around the fire pit. It normally gets a very thick, almost lime green, but it doesn't have the characteristics of crabgrass as far as being that multi-stemmed thing, but it's killed it as well. I mean, you could see kind of the patches like this where that type of grass would be. I don't know if any of you guys know what it is. Honestly, it's like a lime green. It grows faster than the regular turf grass, and normally it takes over a lot of this area. Now I do have in here, you can see crabgrass there that doesn't look affected by the chemical. I think the problem with there is that was very young sprouts when I sprayed, and probably just didn't see it and didn't spray it. So I'm actually going to probably give it a second application to hit some of these areas that have grown up. But let me show you what the product is. Well, actually, before I do that, I want to show you this. This area was loaded with crabgrass, and you can see it's turning brown and dying. All right, let me show you the product. So it's called Sublime. It's kind of nice. It's got a measurer on here because you put 1.5 ounces per gallon. As a matter of fact, to be totally honest, when I first applied it, it was 1.5 to 1. I put the 1.5 in the tank sprayer, and that, by the way, that's how I applied this, is with a tank sprayer, and then proceeded to fill it up with 2 gallons. So I diluted it. So what I did was, 4 or 5 days after that application, we had about 4 inches of rain. So I figured that that was enough to wash a lot of it away or dilute it. I applied it again at the proper strength and got the results that I'm showing you now. I'll put the link for this, an Amazon link, in the video description and a pinned comment. But if you have crabgrass issues, the evidence is in. This works. I'll put this Garvey fuel tank in the video description and a pinned comment. I've been really happy with it. I really have. Saves the back. You know, I'm wondering if I'm the only one. I actually love cutting the grass. I find it a very relaxing chore. Kind of introspective. I kind of do a lot of thinking. Maybe I'm crazy, but I actually like it. If you're not using one of these, they're fantastic. They really are. This thing works so good that I don't even put a cotter pin on the bottom. All right, so I'm gonna get some weed and feed on the lawn. And one thing I've learned, especially when you get these bigger bags, is to pour it in slow. And if you see any clumps, break them up, because it will, all of a sudden you'll look back and you're not discharging because the auger gets stuck. This is a 15,000 square foot bag. And I don't do the whole property. I just do the part that's contiguous to the house. I'm not gonna film that. You guys don't need to see that. But yeah, the lawn has gotten out of control this year a lot. As I said earlier, because of my surgery and that. But I got it, I gotta get back under control. I can't stand the way it looks. All right, and that's that. By the way, that's a Chapin spreader. I'll put the link for it and that magnetic pin in the video description because it's awesome. I have a question though. I've been thinking about going to a liquid fertilization and herbicide, you know, with the tow behind tank. I'm wondering if some of you guys have that. I'm wondering if two things, if you find it more effective and cheaper. It was a 15,000 square foot bag of Scott's weed and feed. It was, I think, just shy of $90. Yeah, I don't know. I would love your input, what your advice is, because I've been thinking about it for a while, and I'm thinking it's something that might make sense to do. Please let me know in the comments. Hey, I mentioned a birthday present that Tess had got me. She buys the best presents for me. She really does. She listens to everything that I say. And a while back, I had said that I wanted to get a different smoker. That's something that I really enjoy doing is, ribs and pork shoulder, chicken, you name it. I love working with the smoker. It's just enjoyable to me, it really is. So what I wanted to do was to simplify the process. I had a propane-fired smoker. I've had all kinds of smokers, you name it. The big barrel type where you actually put hickory logs in and what have you, and down to the little bullet ones. But I wanted to go with an electric. I want to get rid of the propane tanks. It's the only thing I have on the property that I use propane for. And I wanted to kind of set it and forget it. So what she got me was, which I'll show you in a minute, the East Oak electric digital smoker. It's really nice. I mean, you set the temperature 215, 220 degrees. You can set a timer on it as well. It actually has a meat probe, which is, when you're doing something like a brisket or a big pork shoulder, I mean, that's really helpful. So I want to share that with you. My first time using it, which was yesterday, and I love this smoker. So when you buy a new smoker, what they always want you to do is to season it. And they tell you to put a light coat of oil. And what this will do, it will burn off any of the chemicals that was used during assembly and production. On the side is a vent, and they want this open all the way. You could see this red button says that it's working. Now what will happen is after the cycle, the time cycle has been completed, you see the temperature starting to rise, it will shut itself down. So let's say you were going to smoke for 4 hours. At the end of 4 hours, if you're not out here at that particular moment, it'll shut the burners off, and then it will maintain 120 degrees, which is nice. So it keeps the food warm. All right, all seasoned. Let's do some smoking. All right, so what I'm going to be doing today is boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I'm going to reserve a couple Tess and I'll have that for dinner. But the rest, if you've never had chicken salad with smoked chicken, it's just incredible. So that's what we're going to do with the balance of them. I think being that there's no bone and no skin, because by the way, if you do cook chicken with skin on it, you need to cook the last 15-20 minutes or so at a high temperature to crisp the skin. Otherwise the skin's going to be real rubbery. But I'm not doing that today. So I think I'm going to go with 2 hours. Here are my wood chips. I've got them soaking. And this smoker takes wood chips, not hunks of wood. And if you're a faithful viewer, you might remember a few months ago, I think it was actually Easter, maybe Father's Day, I can't remember. With my propane-fired smoker, I decided I was going to use big hunks of hickory. I did soak them, but I'm quite certain that the manufacturer of that smoker says the same thing that this one does. Do not use hunks of wood. You have to use chips. It just gets too hot in there. And yeah, I nearly burnt the barn down. Hey, whatever I can do to entertain you guys. You see, I've got the wood chips. Water is really important to keep the meat moist. And also, now what we're going to do is I'm going to get this preheated up to 250 degrees, 250. And it's best to keep the meat in the refrigerator until right before you're going to put them on. Colder meat absorbs smoke easier. All right, and you can see the red light tells me that it's warming. So as soon as we get up to temperature, we'll put the chicken on. I'm putting all the meat on the top rack. As you go down, the temperature will change. So this way it allows me to get a uniform temperature on the chicken. Well, all right, we are at temperature. Smoke is starting to come out, and I've got this vent cracked halfway. That seems to give you the most smoke, but keeping your temperature pretty standard as well. So we're gonna let this go for 2 hours. I decided against using the meat probe. Just these little thighs are just too thin. It's just really not that effective. If I was using a brisket, you know, or a pork shoulder, then it's absolutely ideal. So far, I mean, this thing is so easy to use. I mean, it really is. All right, they've been on an hour now. I'm gonna flip them over. Got about another hour to go. You know, smoking meat to me it's like a Sunday afternoon thing. That's the way I think about it. Is like on a football Sunday. I'm gonna be watching the games during the day, and I'll put something on in the morning. Ribs, pork shoulder, chicken, whatever it is. It'll smoke all day. Get to smoke it. There's no running bath and having to check on it. I look at it as kind of a hobby. I really do. All right, let's check this meat. Oh yeah. And so that's it. I mean, that's how simple it is to smoke really just about anything. It really is. They're going to be juicy. They're cooked perfectly. And, you know, it was fun to do, but without a lot of going back and forth and what have you. You know, throw the wood chips in, pick your temperature, and let the smoker do the rest. Yeah, this is going to make me want to smoke more often. It really is. It's just so much simpler than some of the other smokers that I've had.